Another problem that some people on the spectrum have is breakup of visual images. I don't have this problem. And I wouldn't be a visual thinker if I had this problem. The movie did a fantastic job of showing how my visual thinking mind works. I want to let everybody know that the HBO movie will be on DVD August 17th. Amazon.com is taking pre-orders right now. And if you don't know the title of it, it's Temple Grandin. Now here's a picture that a young man sent to me. It's in a little book called Little Brain Man. It's a really nice little book for teaching 3rd and 4th graders about autism. And he drew how he had movie reels in his head. That's thinking in pictures. There's a scene in the movie where a whole bunch of shoes just came up all of a sudden. Boom, 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 boom. That's exactly how I think. And being a visual thinker is a great asset for an equipment designer because I could test run equipment in my head. I thought everybody test run equipment in their head. I didn't know it was a special skill. I thought everybody was able to do that. You know, I didn't know until I wrote Thinking in Pictures and started asking other people about how they think. And here's the dip vat that they built in the movie. And one thing I really loved in the movie, and this is the geek side of me, is all my projects were done exactly right. My drawings were actually used in the movie. All the projects were, I built that gate when I was 15 years old. Well, Mother was always pushing me to do stuff. Always doing different things. You know, we got to get kids out and get exposed to interesting stuff and get them doing stuff. And there are the drawings. And that's the drawings from the 70s. And, you know, people thought it was really weird and they didn't want to talk to me. And then when I showed them my drawings, you see, I had to sell my work, not myself. And they'd look at my drawings and go, oh, wow, you did that? Then I got some respect. And there's another picture of the dip vat drawing right there. And this is a project I really like. We did up in Canada. And I like to fantasize that maybe 1,000 years from now, some archaeologists will be discussing okay. You see a word, hear a word, you think about a word, see how different parts of the brain get turned on. Well, you've got to have inter-office communication between all these different parts of the brain. And I like to visualize the brain as a big corporate office building. And up at the top, you've got the CEO. That's the frontal cortex. You know, if you look in the neuroscience literature, they call the frontal cortex the executive function. Now, there's no memories in the frontal cortex. It's just a giant association cortex that associates everything with everything else. Division vice president level, that's where you have language. Then you get below that and get into the good geek stuff, math, music, art, all that really good kind of fun stuff like that. And then you've got the emotion center, you get further down, and then you got the incoming data lines. A lot of trouble there, a lot of scrambling on incoming data lines. You can also have problems on output lines. You know, getting information out. On my speech, I had problems getting it out. There's other kids that are echolalic, they yak all these words, but they don't know what they mean. And if your kid's echolalic, you jump in joy. They're going to learn to speak. Okay, this is a route map for the inter-office communications in the brain. Sort of looking like brain airlines. Okay, on the right-hand side, you've got the frontal cortex, where it says amygdala, where Chicago would be. That's the emotion center. Out here on the West Coast, we got Silicon Valley. Now, the basic principle in autism is we cancel a bunch of flights on the East Coast. And we cancel quite a few flights to Chicago. Now, the numbers of flights that get canceled is going to vary a lot. But you know what? Flights get added on the West Coast, where you may be deleting circuits in the frontal cortex, maybe adding circuits in the West Coast, and that, you know, you got rid of all the autism genes, you get rid of the next generation Silicon Valley. It would just be that simple. The genetics of autism is exceedingly complicated. And you got rid of all the genetics that cause autism, you might get rid of intelligence. That would not be a good thing to do. Now, one of the problems you have when you cancel a lot of flights to Chicago is the frontal cortex loses top-down control on emotions. This is one of the reasons why you have problems with controlling rages and things like that. Now, when I was in high school, I got teased, and I got into fights, and they did take away horseback riding. And the thing that saved me was I switched from anger to crime. Couldn't control emotion, so I just switched. And I don't really know how I did it, but I wouldn't have had any career if I hadn't switched. Now, how do you form concepts? When I just have all these pictures, specific pictures floating around in my head. The way you form a concept is putting pictures into categories, putting them in little boxes in your head, file folders in your head. Autistic thinking is what's called bottom-up. You put the pieces together to form a concept. Everything has to be taught with specific examples. Everything. How do we teach the concept of up? If you just did it with up the stairs, then I think it was like up the stairs. You got to show us a kite goes up in the air. A plane is up in the air. There's a movie called Up because a house went up in the air. See, those are all examples of up. You've got to teach a whole lot of specific examples of up to teach it. How do we teach a rule like not running across the street? Well, the kid will obey it at home, but he doesn't obey it anywhere. Teach it at home, at school, the library, synagogue, I don't know where. We must teach it probably in like 10 different places. Then they will start to get the concept. See, the normal human mind's top down. You have a concept and then you shove the data into it. The autistic mind's just the opposite. It's bottom up. And this is one of the most important things I can tell you, and it applies to everything. I've had teachers say to me, well, how do you teach reading comprehension? Well, it's easy for them to do the facts. But how about, let's say, you showed a picture of pancakes, and then you ask them what meal that was, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Well, then you can just explain that to them. And you explain enough of those things to them, it's like filling up the database. You've got to fill the internet up. It's inside their head. So the Google they've got, in my mind, works exactly like Google. The thing I found interesting about search engines is it works exactly like how my mind works. See, the normal human mind's top down. You have a concept and then you shove the data into it. The autistic mind's just the opposite. It's bottom up. And this is one of the most important things I can tell you, and it applies to everything.